Street Part 2, 1978 is a new film that's been released on Netflix this past weekend. And you know, I gotta talk about it. Now, going into this movie, I'm going to have some minor spoilers because this movie is part 2 of the trilogy event from Netflix. Fear Street Part 1 has came out a couple of weeks ago, so it's available to watch there, and also check out my spoiler-free review. I will leave it at the link in the description below. So if you have not seen Fear Street Part 1, I'm sorry, this video is probably not for you, but if you don't care and if you have seen Fear Street Part 1, well, you have come to the right place. Let's begin. Fear Street Part 2, 1978, takes place in Shadyside as school's out for the summer and activities at Camp Nightwing are about to begin. But when another Shadysider is possessed with the urge to kill, the fun in the sun becomes a gruesome fight for survival. After watching the first movie and going into this second movie, Part 2, I was trying to see what were the main things I like about the first movie. Well, it was fun. It had some interesting, cool characters. The cliche over the top, but it was effective. I did like some of the story beats and things in that nature. As I was watching this movie, the atmosphere and the tone was similar to the first film, and then we got into 1978. There was some good performances scattered throughout, and I have to say the characters did a good job. The characters did a good job of adjusting to the times and interacting with one another as if it was 1978. You have a problem with me, brother?
I ain't your brother. Brother?
Well, you better be quiet or I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Oh yeah, you jive turkey? You calling me a jive turkey?
I don't fully know how they talk in 1978. I just felt like the dialogue worked for the film. So as you go along with the story, we get some detailed information on a certain few characters. There also was development on a certain few characters. I felt like some of the development in this movie was more of a mere device just to elevate the tropes that's in this movie, because its characters are cliche galore. As I was watching the movie leading on to that second act, I was asking myself some questions. And unfortunately, I didn't find myself gravitating to the characters probably in that second act, but I will go in details a little bit further later on. I would say that the midway half point, I did like the story elements, and that's where we focus heavily on the story. Like in the first movie, we learned that it revolves around a witch named Seraphir. Now this movie is going to break down more elements and give us more answers on Seraphir, on why and what really happened revolved around this curse on Shadyside. I did find the story elements working, but also there are some times in this movie where the film sidetracks from the story a little bit and goes back to our characters. Then around the third act, that's when the film shines and it got some really beautiful kills going in. So I'm talking about some beautiful kills, like some nice slasher type lovable kill. And I really had to talk about the main thing about this movie was the good performances. I would say the standout performance was Sadie Sink. Like in this movie, we follow Sadie Sink's character, Ziggy. Now, she's the main character in this movie, and she has this personal conflict that she has with her sister. You feel like they're like polar opposites, and the film does a good job of developing the sisters. So therefore, they give out a good reason why they're polar opposites and why they're always butting heads. And that right there leads into some of the issues with the film itself. Like I said before, this film has some good performances scattered throughout. It has your traditional cliche characters or tropes. Like going into the first act, leading on to the second act, I noticed that the film focused heavily on the characters and then all their interactions, and they didn't really follow much of the story beats. And of revolving around the witch, like I found that information, that story plot revolved around the witch to be interesting, and I wanted the film to delve deeper into that. And we see a bunch of cliche characters, and like I said before, it worked for the first movie because in that first movie, it was the first setting in 1994, But this one, I feel like it was in a different era, 1978. So I feel like the cliche tone doesn't mesh with that era. That's cool and all, but having the overabundance of the characters and interactions, it took away some of the story elements. But the film felt like it lost its momentum, and it felt left off balance. And then leading on to the second act, we got some kills, and then we went back to relationships, and then we got some more kills, some interesting kills, and then we go back to certain characters and their relationship problems. And I feel like the film was kind of off balance, going back and forth. And then leading on to the third act, the story elements elevated, and I was captivated. So around that second act, I feel like the audience will get a little bit bored because there isn't much filler on the story that doesn't get fleshed out into the third act. As for the development in this movie, yes, it does a good job of developing characters, but there are a plethora of characters in this movie, and pretty much most of the development came from the two main characters, and I just felt like they spent too much time on characters and not enough time of elevating his story. But outside of that, I still had a good time watching this movie. It's just not as compelling as the first film, and the story isn't as cohesive as presenting itself as it did in the first movie, and you still ask yourself some questions. But we still have one more movie left, 1666, and hopefully it will flesh out all the questions I have. I'm going to have to give Fear Street Part 2, 1978, a Michael Keaton Batman. This is a good, fun film you will enjoy. So that's my review of Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Have you seen Fear Street Part 2, 1978? What are your thoughts? Comment below. Let's talk about it, and I'll see you guys in my next review. And if you like everything you see and you agree, subscribe to my channel. Join me in the Batman family. I have my Batman-tastic reviews in the way. You have been warned. Till then, ciao. Holy mackerel.